Bonjour et bienvenue dans Passeport Diplomatique, votre émission qui vous invite à découvrir la diplomatie sous un autre jour. Cette semaine, nous sommes à la résidence de la haute-commissaire d'Australie à Maurice, où son Excellence Kate Chamley nous reçoit. Immersion dans ce partage diplomatique. Good afternoon, High Commissioner, and thank you for your time today for joining us on Passeport Diplomatique.
Thank you, Nicolas. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
How would you describe the role of the Australian High Commission in Mauritius today?
Sure. I guess for the High Commission, we're Australia's outpost in this part of the world, in the Western Indian Ocean. We form part of a global network of embassies and consulates around the world, and there's a few functions that we have in this part of the world. So I see us as a collaborator with countries in the region, certainly with Mauritius, given that we're located here, but we also have accreditation for Seychelles, Madagascar and Comoros. So that means that we have a inherently regional focus, actually. And it means that we look for opportunities to collaborate with these countries in this part of the Indian Ocean and find pathways where we can work towards areas and benefits that are common to our interests in the Indian Ocean. Some of those are in the maritime security space, working together on climate change, developing our blue economies. But also the High Commission is a platform for trade, engagement, education exchange, and of course we also provide services to Australians in this part of the world who might find themselves in difficulty from time to time or who need a passport renewed, so we provide those services as well.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Imagine you are explaining your job to a young student. What does a typical day in the life of a High Commissioner really look like?
Well, I think there's no typical day, and my day today has been an example of that. I think to a student, I would describe it as it's a bit like being at school, but you've got a really kind of heavy program of studies, but you also involve yourself in lots of extracurricular activities and things that keep you busy outside of that school environment. So just to give you an example, today I've been at an international health symposium that Curtin, Mauritius and the Charles Telfair Education hosted this morning. Then I went on to have a meeting with the WHO regional director who's in town. I then went to a rehearsal for the police band as we prepare for an event next week. And now I'm talking to you during this interview. Some days are in the office at our High Commission in Port Louis, and it's wonderful to be located there because there are so many of our partners, both in the public sector and the private sector, who are based there. So you might see me walking around in Port Louis going to meetings from time to time. I do like to walk if I can. But I would just say to a young person who might be thinking about a career as a diplomat that it's a really interesting and varied career. No day is the same. And there's lots of enjoyment that I've found through the course of my career. It's just a really, really interesting profession.
Thank you. So Australia is increasingly visible in the Indo-Pacific. How does Mauritius fit into Australia's broader regional vision?
Sure, that's a really good question. It's really important to articulate that. So I guess for Australia, we are an Indian Ocean country. We're also a Pacific Ocean country, so we really bridge that Indo-Pacific concept that we refer to today. Our foreign policy, Australia's foreign policy, really has at its foundation that Australia's security and our prosperity is tied to the stability of our the oceans that surround us, and also to prosperity and peace in those regions so that trade can flow. And we have some important trade routes in the Pacific Ocean, but also in the Indian Ocean, so that we can keep our oceans safe and secure. And so that's the kind of bedrock or the foundation of our foreign policy. That means that in the Indian Ocean, we really do look to partner with countries, including with Mauritius, because we all have a vested interest in making sure that this ocean is safe and peaceful and prosperous for everybody that lives on the rim. And of course, we see a friend in Mauritius. Mauritius has its strong democratic traditions, its strong institutions, and historically, Australia and Mauritius have worked together with those objectives of stability, prosperity and security in mind to make sure that this region is all of those things for all of us. I think we're also strong partners in some of the regional organisations in the Indian Ocean, so Indian Ocean Commission, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and we place enormous value particularly on the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and we're very grateful to Mauritius for hosting the Secretariat here.
Thank you. What opportunities does Australia offer today to young Mauritians interested in studying, conducting research or building professional links with Australia?
Sure. Well, there's both the in-country offerings and then there's the offerings in Australia. I think young people in Mauritius are always very interested to know what their futures might look like. And we're very fortunate that here in Mauritius we have Australia's only university campus in Africa, in the African region, Curtin Mauritius, which is a partnership between Curtin University based in Perth and Charles Telfair Education here in Mauritius. They offer some fantastic courses. They're all Australian degrees, and we're very proud that Mauritius has this only Australian university in Africa right here. There are also other partnerships that exist with Mauritian institutions and options to study Australian courses at the tertiary level. There's also offerings in the technical and vocational education sector. And then, of course, at the school level and even going down to early childhood education, there are some offerings through Charles Telfair, but also we have the Dukesbridge School Network, which is delivering Australian curriculum, Western Australian curriculum here in Mauritius locally. So they're the pathways that exist locally here in Mauritius. I think offshore in Australia, there's a world of opportunity for those who are interested in it. We have some of the world's leading universities, great courses, and students are often very interested in exploring what those pathways look like. We offer fantastic technical and vocational education as well for school leavers or people who may not be as academic and want to follow a technical pathway. And it's always something that I want to talk to young people about because there are so many opportunities. But I do say to the people to do your research because it's important to work with a reputable education agent if you're looking to go to Australia. And really explore what the best option for an individual student might be in terms of the course, where they're going to live, what experience they'll have. And those experiences are so enriching for people. There are scholarship opportunities as well. The universities offer scholarships themselves. And then at the Australian government level, we have our flagship development program known as the Australia Awards Scholarships. And these are prestigious awards where Mauritian professionals can apply to do a master's in Australia that is fully funded. But it's a fantastic opportunity to go to Australia and do a degree, a master's degree, and come back. We do expect people to come back and contribute to development in their country. And because of that, we have a really vast alumni network, people who've been on Australia Awards scholarships, or they may have gone down to Australia self-funded. And that is just the most, enriching group of people for me. I have many connections with them. I'm always fascinated to hear their stories that they've returned with. And we do keep in touch with people at the High Commission, and we want to know how they are contributing to development in Mauritius, but also in the region, through what they've learned as part of their experience in Australia.
Thank you, High Commissioner. As a small island developing state, Mauritius is vulnerable to climate change. How is Australia navigating climate resilience, ocean governance, and the blue economy in the region?
Yeah, climate change is, an ongoing challenge, and as island countries, both Australia and Mauritius, and also the neighbours, the small island developing neighbours in the region, we have an enormous opportunity to collaborate and exchange on things that will help us become more resilient to climate change. One of the mechanisms, or I might mention two mechanisms that we've been working on most recently. So, of course, as I mentioned, Mauritius and Australia are both member states of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. Australia hosts the IORA Blue Carbon Hub in Perth, and that's a wonderful platform for exchange between all of the IORA member states, where scientists and researchers can go and study and collaborate to build up our capability and knowledge about climate change adaptation, and see through research the impact that climate change is having on our blue economies and the carbon infrastructure that we have. So that's a wonderful platform for exchange. And I think Mauritius, Australia and other countries in the region get so much from that. I'd like to mention also another fantastic project which we're really proud of at the High Commission. It's a collaboration with the Ministry of Agribusiness and the Blue Economy. I know that ministry has a very long name and I can never remember all the different aspects, but you know the ministry I mean. And they've been working very, very closely with scientists from the University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland to regenerate sea cucumber populations in Mauritius, where they may have been overfished or they've been vulnerable to climate change, and they've seen a decrease in the population. The scientists and the researchers at the University of the Sunshine Coast have been to Mauritius 3 or 4 times now, and they're coming back very, very soon to create new generations of sea cucumbers that are growing. They started off as tiny specks and now they're quite large animals. And eventually the plan is that they will be, redistributed into the wild and hopefully regenerate themselves in parts of Mauritius's waters. So that's a fantastic project that we've been very proud to work on with the ministry and with the Junior Minister Fabrice David. And I hope it really continues. But I just share those as examples of the practical ways in which Australia and Mauritius are working in the face of climate change.
Thank you. Australia is also known for its expertise in renewable energy and environmental management. What are the potential for cooperation in energy and water management, for instance?
Sure. Yeah, another really good question, and an area that we do try and focus much of our efforts on at the High Commission and through the bilateral cooperation that we have. Australia is really working hard to transition our own economy to renewable energy, and it's different across the country, but last year we were able to work with the Ministry for Energy here to host a symposium or a roundtable on clean energy, working with also the HSBC Bank here in Mauritius. That allowed the technical experts but also policymakers to connect in with our colleagues or counterparts in South Australia. South Australia, of course, Australia is a federation, so we have states and territories, and they each have their state and territory governments. So South Australia has been at the forefront, and if we compare it to the other states, of transitioning their economy to renewable energy. And we saw an opportunity to collaborate with Mauritius because it's a relatively smaller population in South Australia, around 4 million people, but also it's got a semi-autonomous energy grid as well. And so we saw some similarities with Mauritius, and it was a good exchange. Wonderful to, I guess, open the box on the possibilities and what a jurisdiction does to transition its energy, because it's not about just building renewable energy sources into the system. You also have all the technical things around things like billing and what it costs for the consumer and those technical things. So that was a good exchange. And I feel like there's a lot more in the pipeline potentially for our two countries as we share and exchange our knowledge in terms of energy transition.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Digital transformation, including AI and cybersecurity, are becoming global priorities. How does Australia engage with Mauritius on digital governance, innovation, and capacity building?
Yeah. So they're really important issues for every country, I feel like. And Australia's done quite a lot of work in this space. You would have seen late last year, the Australian government has actually enacted a new piece of legislation for Australia, but also for the world, where it does restrict young people under 16 from having access to social media accounts. And that was really generated by our population because parents were looking for ways to be able to have conversations with their kids around the harms. We know that there can be risks for young people and that the social media landscape is such that we all respond to the algorithms that social media throws at us. And for the developing brain, that may not be such a good thing. So it is quite experimental, this legislation. I think the world is watching us, and I know Mauritius is watching us to see how it goes. It's not without controversy. There are some young people who are, upset about not being able to have access to social media at this age. But I guess it's also an assurance or a measure that the Australian government has taken in Australia to allow families to make decisions and informed decisions about having access for young people to social media. So that's one thing that I know Mauritius is watching us on. In terms of other cybersecurity cooperation, one of the great things that I've been really proud to see is through our Australia Awards program that I mentioned. We have a Mauritian woman, her name is Veda, and she has been in Australia all year, going to the University of Queensland to study a Masters of Cybersecurity. And I'm very hopeful that she's having a good experience. I know that she is actually having a good experience, but that she will come back here at the end of her course. She's in the public sector. She will return to her position with this new knowledge about cybersecurity that she's been learning. And yeah, I just share that as an example of one of the many ways in which we connect and support and build capacity on cybersecurity, because it's always changing, and yeah, we all try and keep up with what's going on with AI and I certainly personally am, in my journey of using AI as diplomats, there's been not a reluctance, but just some, I guess, we haven't adopted it as quickly as other sectors have. But it certainly is changing rapidly, and it's very, very useful in our work.
How important are cultural exchanges, sports and diaspora connections in strengthening Australia-Mauritius ties?
Well, they're hugely important. The second largest Mauritian diaspora in the world lives in Australia. They have been there for, a vast majority of them have been there for many years, but of course we've had people more recently go and study there, settle there, or go and work there and settle there. And it's wonderful actually to have this huge people-to-people connection between the two countries. That means that we are richer as two countries for these exchanges. And even today at the International Health Symposium at Curtin Mauritius and Charles Telfer Education, there was an amazing example of one of our diaspora who is really leading some fascinating innovations in the health sector in Australia, but he wanted to bring some of his experience and knowledge back to Mauritius, and so has been working very closely with Charles Telfer Education and Curtin Mauritius on this symposium. And I feel like examples of that happen, or they come across our desks at the High Commission pretty much every week, because there is this real interest from the Mauritian diaspora in Australia to connect with their home country, with their mother country, including through the fabulous Mauritian High Commission down in Canberra and the network of honorary consuls that exists in Australia who provide supports and services to Mauritian people living there or who are visiting there. These cultural exchanges that we work on together are very, very important, not only for our understanding of each other, but acknowledging our history as well. And as we approach the commemoration of the abolition of slavery here in Mauritius, the High Commission has been working very closely with the Intercontinental Slavery Museum, but also with a Mauritian author here who's actually done a lot of research into a historical character from both of our histories by the name of Constance Couron. She was actually the youngest convict to be sent from Mauritius to Australia back in the 1800s. And so it's a cultural piece, it's a historical piece, but we do focus in on these cultural exchanges quite a bit in our public diplomacy work at the High Commission, because that's how we understand each other. And at the end of the day, our work is informed by these connections between people that are so important in the broader connections between our two countries.
Thank you. In the spirit of Passeport Diplomatique, could you share a story, a meaningful or unexpected moment that reveals the human side of diplomacy?
Sure. I think we see examples of the human side of diplomacy every day, but one I can absolutely point to with clarity, which has happened in the last few weeks and months. You would be familiar with the horrific terrorist attack that happened on Bondi Beach in Sydney late last year, just before Christmas. And it was horrific and a shock to our nation, and it's going to take us a little while to rebuild after that. In fact, this week our Parliament in Australia was recalled, and there'll be a national day of mourning on the 22nd of January. In terms of the human connection, we had so many of our friends and partners here in Mauritius, but also across the region, contact myself, contact the High Commission to give their condolences and to tell us that they were thinking about Australia at that horrific time, including Prime Minister Ramgoolam, who called personally. And I think that is a real human touch. I know that he is a friend, a very thoughtful person, but that a country and a leader would have such empathy for Australia at that time was really touching, and I think points to that human connection between our two countries.
Thank you. To conclude, you've probably heard about slam poetry or the art of poetic performance, popular amongst youngsters.
Yes.
One popular trend is a battle of rhyme, where we take turns proposing one word that rhymes with the previous.
Okay.
And the last person standing wins.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready, and I have never done this before, so let's give it a go.
Diplomatique.
République.
Fantastic.
Sympathétique.
Hectic.
Oh, I'm stuck. Hectic. Terrific.
I'm stuck now. You win this.
Okay. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you very much for your time, for welcoming us here, and we look forward to exchange more from this year.
It's a pleasure. Wonderful to talk to you today, and all the best. I've seen all of your episodes so far, and they're really a great snapshot into the life of a High Commissioner, but also wonderful to talk to you today about the relationship between Australia and Mauritius. So thank you.
Mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.